Joined from central London by Ajmal Masroor, an imam based in London. Hello to you. Thank you for joining us on Sky News this afternoon. I'm sure you heard what the Prime Minister had to say during his speech in Birmingham earlier on today. Basically, the top line from that was that Muslim communities are failing to integrate.
I think that's incorrect. If you look at the recent statistics published by the Guardian newspaper, it would show you more than 80% of British Muslims are very proud of being British as well as their faith as Muslims, as opposed to a smaller number in comparison to the non-Muslim community. So evidence after evidence indicate that Muslims are very integrated and very happy. And in fact, I've gone one step further and have said that Britain is more Islamic than most Muslim countries in the world. So I don't know what this Prime Minister is talking about when he's talking about integration of Muslims. Of course, he's got an issue, and of course, he's got a point about extremism and radicalization that needs to be dealt with separately. But to tarnish a Muslim community as a whole as not integrating enough at the back of it is rather cowardly.
Britain is more Islamic than other countries in the world. What do you mean by that?
Take, for example, most Muslim countries where there is no freedom, there is no democracy, there are no rules of law, people don't have the right to live even, they get arbitrarily arrested and killed. Those are the countries that are violating the Islamic principle of safeguarding life, property, intellect, family and faith of people. Britain guarantees all that. It's enshrined in our values of Britishness. And therefore, here we find more Islam in everyday life, in our mosques, in our marketplace, in our trade places. And that's why we're very proud of being very British. And of course, for a Prime Minister to tarnish that, it just does not sound very productive. In fact, it's counterproductive. We should be celebrating British Muslim contribution and their integration in our society more than just criminalizing them or making negative remarks for headlines.
What does British values mean to you as an imam?
It means everything. In fact, you know, when I go to my local mosque, when I am talking to people about being British and being here, I tell them this is more Islamic. This is where it belongs, and we belong here. Our narrative, our future, our destiny is all part and parcel of being European, being British. More importantly, respect for humanity, regard for other people, their right to live, right to dissent, right to be different, right to have plurality in our midst, right to have democracy. All of those things are Islamic and British, and they're those mutual values that I very much hold in high esteem and always propose and propagate across the globe.
What would you say to British people who are not Muslim, Christians or other denominations, who say, yeah, but Islamic State's followers are also Muslim and we are frightened of them?
And rightly so. I'm frightened of Islamic State. I don't know whether you know, Kay, but I live with a death threat from those lunatics at the moment. For example, the Al-Shabaab group. My family had to move home. I had to adjust my lifestyle. I had to get police protection, even though I don't seek it, because of the death threat. So it's not just the non-Muslims. Muslims are equally frightened, and we need to do something about it. But I've never seen any ideology, rotten or otherwise, being defeated by bombings. We tried that with Al-Qaeda and failed miserably. I don't think we're going to defeat ISIL by bombing them or anything of that nature. What we need is a more strategic approach. What we need is an inclusive, powerful and a partnership approach. And that's not what I'm hearing from the government at the moment.
So how can they be defeated then? What are the root causes of radicalisation, I suppose, that mean that young people leave this country in order to fight for Islamic State in Syria and northern Iraq?
Let's put it into perspective. A very, very small number of people have actually gone. There are 3 million Muslims who live here. There is no tidal wave or an exodus of Muslims leaving this country to go and join ISIS or ISIL, whatever the name it is. And therefore, we don't want to, of course, criminalize or put aspersions on Muslim community as a whole. Secondly, how do we defeat this nutty, very crazy, very murderous ideology that prevails? Well, my approach is very simple. I want to understand why they've come about. I believe it's come about because there is a vacuum created by the illegal Iraq war and our inaction in Syria against a brutal regime. And of course, the curving up of the Middle East over the last hundreds of years and support of dictators and despots. So those are the root causes that I believe have created a vacuum, and some crazy, deranged people, nothing to do with Islam as far as I'm concerned. In fact, there is no room for such people in Islam, have taken over the mantle of saying they want to do, and that is cleanse the area of this evil. I don't support them. Nobody should support them. The way to fight them is to empower the civil society institutions, is to allow the Muslim communities in the Middle East to be free, is for us to stop supporting the dictators and despots by supplying them arms and intelligence, and most importantly, creating a moderate and inclusive narrative that we Muslims have been yearning for years and years.
So British politicians dating back 12 years or so now a little bit longer, have to accept their responsibility or their partial responsibility for the setting up of Islamic State because that they voted in favour of the Iraq war?
That may be a correct analysis. In fact, we need to go one step further. We need to try some of those people who are responsible for the Iraq war in the first place in the international courts. We haven't done that. We haven't heard anything from the Chilcot inquiry.
What do you mean by that, sir? What do you mean?
I mean, for example, why are we delaying the Chilcot inquiry results? Why is it not being released? Why is it taking so long? Why is Tony Blair and Bush walking free without answering to the international community for an illegal war? And why is it that our parliament, British Parliament, actually voted for an invasion which was illegal? And of course, thousands of people came out onto the street opposing it. So not only do we need to put our hands up and apologize for our blunder and also our responsibility, in fact, the entire mess in the Middle East, unfortunately, can be traced back historically, as well as for more recent days, to our unethical, rotten foreign policies. And we need to really change that. I'm not saying this is an excuse under any circumstances. I'm saying we need to become smart. We need to become inclusive and powerful people and not fall victim of those who wish to use and abuse us as normal human beings. We're not accepting such narrative any longer.
So you feel that Tony Blair has a criminal case to answer in an international criminal court?
I do, and I think Bush has the same. Both of them need to be brought to justice. If, however, after a fair trial, they are found not guilty, wonderful. But if they're found guilty, they should be locked up. This will give a fantastic precedence to what I call anyone who is thinking of doing any illegal invasion. This will put an end to dictators and despots thinking they can walk away scot-free after murdering and remaining in power. And of course, more importantly, it will set this record straight. And I will go one step further, Kay. I would say United Nations need to be given more teeth so that it can fight international causes. For example, resolving the conflict of Palestine 65 years on and hasn't been resolved. 300,000 Muslims have died in Syria. Hundreds and thousands of people have been killed, innocent people, in Burma. While United Nations can't do anything, and some permanent members hold United Nations hostage to their veto power. So United Nations need complete reform, and we need to rethink about the world. Are we going to leave a world that is more divided and messed up, or are we going to leave a world that is more peaceful? And I'm one who wants to leave the world more peaceful for my children and future generations.
Ajmal Masroor, thank you for joining us here on Sky News this afternoon. Thank you.